So, Jason, have you heard of an organization called Charity Water?
Of course.
I think everybody's heard of Charity Water before.
Yeah, great organization.
So I've got an article. It's up on the screen here, but it's a bit of an older article. It's from last year, 2018, and it's talking about how Charity Water is using email marketing to promote their subscription-based donation program. So Charity Water, you may know, has had they've been hugely successful in building a monthly online donor community.
Right.
And this article talks a little bit about, actually it talks pretty much of one aspect of how are they doing that? How are they using email marketing? Because they call it a subscription-based donation program. So how are they using email marketing and automation to communicate with that audience and to grow that audience, or at least to keep them giving month to month? So
as a quick background, I think it's important to say a couple things. One is Charity Water, before they did this, is an awesome organization, as you suggested. They're in like 24 countries, but also they've set up their nonprofit with sort of a nonprofit that supports administration. And then when you go give a donation one-to-one, 100% of your donation goes to one of those 24 countries to bring water, which is a great model to begin with. And just to set this up, they're just a very successful, impactful organization. But they had a need, they had a challenge, right? Mm-hmm. They didn't, just like most nonprofits, you get to the end of the year and you have to start over in terms of revenue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so, I mean, they've actually been successful in a couple of areas. So one, and I'm going to pull up their 2016 annual report
here.
Yeah,
that'd be great, because it'll give us perspective.
Yeah, one of the cool things about Charity Water is they do a very compelling, very thorough kind of annual report. So they're not scared about putting their numbers out there or worried about what people will think. I mean, they just put everything out there. And I think it's awesome to see an organization that is being that transparent.
And it's visually beautiful. That's one thing they do too. Their content is fantastic and their video work as well, but we'll get into that.
It is. So there's a couple keys here that I want to call out for today. One you were alluding to is one way they've been very successful is that literally if I go and make a gift as an individual donor to water, 100% of my donation is going towards a water project somewhere. And the way they're able to do that is they've actually established a group that they call, I want to say, let's see here, is it Pipeline? What is it? It's not Pipeline. They call it, here it is, our community, The Well.
Yes.
So they've got a group that they call The Well. They're primarily made of major donors, businesses, corporate partnerships that fund the operations of Charity Water.
Right.
So this Well group funds the operations so that I, as a donor, can give my dollar knowing confidently that all of it's going to go to a water
No
project.
hesitation for individuals to consider giving money to Charity Water.
Yeah, which, I think every nonprofit would desire to have a similar model.
Yes.
If we can cover our operations, then we can truly focus on our mission, right? And we can focus on doing more of our mission. We don't have to be distracted on raising our salaries or raising the money we need for rent or whatever that might be. And I think that's a cool model. And if you can, I think you should strive for that. I think very few nonprofits, Charity Water is, I think, the foremost one that I know who's been successful in doing that. But few nonprofits have been able to establish that. And so they really go to the broad base fundraising to kind of help fund the operations.
And I think it's important to say that we say that sort of as a well done to Charity Water, the way that they've set up, the way that they use creativity and innovation in the marketplace to raise money. But we also recognize that all nonprofits, like you said, are not set up that way. However, some of the principles that we'll talk about today are applicable.
Most
regardless if you have your nonprofit set up that way. So in a way, we're saying, hey, Charity Water is awesome, but they're also like building off really awesome success. And sometimes that seems a little easier. So if you're a struggling nonprofit, you might say, man, well, I'm not Charity Water, I can't do that. But you can. Mm-hmm. You can.
Well, and different nonprofits have just different situations.
Sure.
So, take collegiate athletics. You're part of an overarching institution that has different budgeting methodologies and priorities. So that looks different for you. Charity Water is a global ministry that can be appealing to people of all kind of beliefs. So if you're a ministry, you probably have a smaller pool of people to pull from to do that. But I think, while job well done, I think what I really want to talk about here, though, is this other community they've built called The Spring. And everybody has talked about monthly giving. It's been a huge topic for a long time, but the spring is their monthly giving group. And the thing I want to point out is that in year one, so they launched this in 2016, in September of 2016, and essentially within the first month they gained 2,100 new subscribers. Huge amount of monthly donors to grow by in 1 month. But they actually ended the year with 6,200 monthly donors, which represents $2.5 million in annual revenue. So they've been hugely successful. I would say they also benefit. So if you're a smaller nonprofit, obviously when you look at Charity Water, they benefit from already a larger audience pool that they're pulling from. They've had a visionary leader who's done an awesome job of getting their brand out there. So brand awareness for Charity Water is sky high. And I think they've created an atmosphere by which people know how to support them. They're excited to support them. And because of that, they've grown tremendously over the years. And so they're now positioned really well to launch a monthly giving program and have success in that. They're not starting from the ground and saying, okay, we just became a nonprofit, now let's start a monthly giving program. They've already had a lot of success, so they're going to build on top of that with the giving program, which I think is a unique case for them. But what we want to talk about is what are some of the ways they're actually continuing to grow that? Because if you look at 2017 here, so 6240, $2.5 million in year one. And then if I scroll down here in 2017, where did they get to in year two? Because the question is, can you sustain it? Can you continue to grow? I think the expectation would be that when we launch a program like that, we're probably going to have a lot of early adopters, big fans, low-hanging fruit that we can pull from, but can we continue to grow that? Can we continue to build that? And so if we scroll down, obviously the answer is going to be yes, but by how much? So spring 2017, they grew 150% year over year. So they started off with 6,250 subscribers. At the end of 2017 fiscal year, they were up to 14,896 members. They went from $2.5 million in annual revenue to $5.87 million in annual revenue. So, I mean, huge growth.
Yeah. So they talk about a couple things that are interesting and this article is a couple years after launch, and it's probably good that it was written, and it does have some legitimate data to point to, but they talk about a few things. One being they wanted to, in order to create a perceived value for this monthly giving club or group, they wanted to have exclusive content, a sense of community, and personalization. So all those things are of interest to me. And they actually in the article, and I struggled with this at first, they make the reference to sort of a Netflix or Spotify model where you put your $9.99 or $11.99 now on your credit card, and that just keeps going, and you forget, or so they're trying to create a pseudo subscription model for doing good or for philanthropy. And I think it's an interesting concept because at the base level, what they're trying to realize is how can we have an expected, recurring giving or recurring revenue line item on our budget that we don't have to really worry about too much the following year. We kind of can count on a certain amount of monthly donors from year to year for a couple of reasons. One, frankly, for-profit software companies care about recurring revenue. Netflix and Spotify. I was just listening to the radio this morning, and I'll just say this really quick, because here's a really super practical reason why it makes sense. Listening to the Ticket Radio, the Musers out of Dallas, Texas. And Gordon Keith was talking about the barnacles that he has on his credit cards. And essentially what he did a research of all the things that he has monthly subscriptions to, and he found 26 that he is personally subscribed to. Now, these aren't necessarily charities, but the fact is he had to do a lot of research and effort to find which ones he was still connected to. So there's almost like this practical idea that once you make a commitment for whatever reason, you're probably going to be there for a long period of time, whether you intend to or not. If you mentally say, I'm going to be here, I'll do this for a year. Well, a year from now, you probably potentially forget that it's there. So.
Yeah, I went through that recently with Audible. So I had an Audible subscription, and it had been, a few months or so since I'd purchased anything. So I logged in, and I had a bunch of credits just sitting there. And I actually canceled my Audible subscription because I was just not downloading audiobooks at a pace where it made sense for me to keep going. But it was something that I'd kind of set and forget, and 3 months went by. And,
exactly.
And now, I actually benefited because I downloaded 3 audiobooks. But it's easy to forget kind of those monthly subscription things you turn on. However, I think in Charity Water's case,
Yeah,
what's interesting here
this is interesting.
is they don't want you to forget that you have it turned on at all. And so this really also speaks to the idea. So we're preaching a lot about how do you use marketing automation software and solutions and strategies to engage with your audience in ways that you can't through a traditional 12-month communication plan. And this is a great example here. So I'm going to read this to you, highlight this on the screen. So each month, members receive a personalized message with updates on how their contributions are making a difference in areas of need. The trigger-based emails are automatically sent when their credit card is charged for their donation. The content varies each month to tell a complete story with narratives from local partners and benefactors. So the cool thing here is they're using a credit card transaction that's tied to a monthly gift to trigger an email that communicates to that donor, hey, don't forget, you're supporting us
Right.
every single month,
Right.
and here's what your support is helping us to do.
Right.
So it tells a complete story with narratives from local partners. Those are proof points saying that your
Yes.
dollars are going to work. Here's the proof. Here's the report back to you. And it's every single month so that I always know, hey, my $9 or my $30, I think it's $30 is what they shoot for, is really making a difference for charity. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's great. And it's interesting also that the perceived sense of intimacy and personalization that comes with not only the stories that they use from different regions. They leverage video a lot. I know that's sort of a debatable thing a little bit, the value of video or using just regular email. But in their case, they're capturing a lot of video that's really on the ground. So it gives you a sense of being there and seeing your investment make a difference. And they talk about that making a significant difference of making that connection back, which is significant.
So one of my big complaints about articles like this is it only goes so deep. So we get kind of one good nugget of information out of it.
2 or 3, but it's almost written like a press release in a way.
A little bit, right? We get this quote unquote trigger-based email that tells a quote unquote complete story.
Behavior.
So what does that look like, right? Because
Yeah.
we're assuming they're probably on scene doing videos. You're getting that content, which a lot of nonprofits might struggle to do. That's expensive. It's not cheap to send videographers out there to capture content on a regular basis. So I think I'm going to sign up for this because I want to see what content is coming to me every month. Let's test Charity Water out. Let's sign up.
I'll tell you what,
we're back. And
hold on. Let's do this.
Yeah.
I will sign up for the regular newsletter.
Okay.
Not because I'm cheap, but just because it'll provide a base level test of what content I receive versus what content you receive for being a monthly donor. How's that?
Idea.
Okay.
Great idea.
So I'll do that. Let's see.
You do newsletter. I'll do monthly gift. We'll report back, and once we've received kind of our communications. I think we need to look at what does the onboarding experience look like. So we talk a lot about welcome series and those types of things. So what does that look like? Because you're going to be a new name. I'll be a new donor, so we should get 2 different experiences, hopefully.
They have a nice little page here for sign up. It seems like they leverage this quite well. So I'm going to do that.
Awesome. So
make sure that I got that in there right.
We'll get signed up and
they
then
join.
Essentially come back, take a look, and actually look at the publications they've sent us. Because I think it's it's helpful for people to actually see what other nonprofits are doing, and they can kind of take that and use it for ideas on their own.
I will say that I just pushed join, and there was a weird. It went right back to the form again, so I think it worked.
Okay.
So let me check my email over here. Nevertheless.
Well, sometimes you have. Oh,
I already got an email.
Okay.
Boom. Yep.
All right. Well,
don't
go into it. We're going to save it, right?
Okay. Yes.
All right. So cool. So I would say this. We're going to be talking a lot about marketing automation. We're going to be talking a lot about looking at other nonprofits. What is their experience in terms of onboarding people? In terms of what are other things you should be thinking about when you think about automation besides new donor, new name? Because there's a lot of things you can do. And so if you're interested in that, keep watching, and we're going to keep pumping out videos at least once a week.
Maybe a teaser. I think one of the things we didn't talk about this time that we might get into a little bit more deep is you suggested the behavior-based sends of the email on credit card transaction, which is genius. But think about how they could also leverage behavior related to content interactions in there from their 24 regions.
Yeah.
That are very specific and global. So we'll get into that later, which
Most
might be
definitely.
fun.
All right. Well, cool. Well, let's talk again next week.
All right.
Later.
Let's do it. See you later.
Peace.